Welcome to the Mohawk Valley Voice Deep Dive. So let me ask you a question that sounds like it's straight out of a political thriller. How can the U.S. government create laws in total secret? Well, today we're going inside one of the most powerful offices you've probably never even heard of, a tiny corner of the government where a handful of lawyers can write memos that authorize actions that, honestly, challenge the very foundations of American democracy.
It is literally murder. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That is a shocking statement from a human rights expert talking about the actions of the U.S. government. To really get our heads around what could possibly justify a condemnation that strong, we need to look at a startling paradox, one that sits right at the heart of executive power. Okay, so let's dive into this. I want you to imagine a scenario with me. This is based on an analysis from the legal journal Jurist, and it's set just a few years from now. But what it reveals is a deeply, deeply disturbing contradiction in how justice can be applied. So check this out. On one hand, you've got Juan Orlando Hernandez, the former president of Honduras. He was actually convicted in a U.S. court for helping to funnel 400 tons of cocaine into this country. What happens to him? He gets a full presidential pardon. Now, on the other hand, you have 82 people who are merely suspected of smuggling drugs. They get no trial, no charges, just a lethal drone strike. That number, 82, it's not just a statistic. It represents the very real human cost of a covert operation where simple suspicion becomes a death sentence. And these strikes, they happen completely outside of any judicial process that you or I would recognize, which, of course, raises an immediate and pretty urgent question. Right. How could a president be legally authorized to pardon a convicted drug kingpin with one hand while ordering the execution of untried suspects with the other? The answer, it turns out, is buried deep inside the Department of Justice.
And you find it in this tiny, obscure office that basically functions as the president's secret and most powerful law firm.
This is the Office of Legal Counsel, or OLC. Now, I know it sounds like just another government advisory board, but here's the kicker. Its opinions are treated as binding law for the entire executive branch. So what that means is a secret memo from these 24 lawyers can authorize a policy, and every single federal agency, from the CIA to the EPA, has to follow it, no questions asked. And when these binding opinions are kept hidden from all of us, it creates what legal experts call secret law. Just think about that for a second. If the government's legal justification for its actions is a secret, how can Congress, the courts, or you and I hold it accountable? This isn't just about a lack of transparency. It's a direct threat to the rule of law itself.
And look, this isn't just some hypothetical problem we're talking about. The OLC has a long, documented history of producing these incredibly controversial legal opinions that have pushed the boundaries of executive power, often with life or death consequences.
You can actually see the pattern build over time. You know, back in the 2000s, you had the infamous torture memos that gave legal cover to interrogation techniques that pretty much everyone agrees was torture. Then, in the 2010s, a secret memo authorized the targeted killing of an American citizen overseas without a trial. And the pattern just continues, with memos being used to block congressional oversight. This shows that our 2025 scenario, it's not a fantasy. It's really the next logical step in a decades-long expansion of secret executive power. And here's exactly how it could work. In our scenario, the entire legal justification for killing those 82 people, it all rests on a single secret OLC memo. And all that memo does is declare that the U.S. is in an armed conflict with drug cartels. That one phrase, that little bit of legalese, it relabels suspected smugglers from criminals who deserve a trial into unlawful combatants who can be targeted with military force. But here's the catch. International law experts say that's a legal fiction. It's just not true. Calling the drug war an armed conflict is like calling a string of bank robberies an enemy invasion. The law requires a certain level of organization and intensity for a situation to qualify as an actual war. And this just doesn't meet the threshold. So, if it's not an act of war, what is it? Well, it's an extrajudicial killing. And that takes us right back to where we started. It is literally murder. So what's the solution? The danger of all this secret law hasn't gone unnoticed. There's a major legislative effort underway right now, designed to drag these secret legal opinions out of the shadows and into the sunlight. It's called the DOJ OLC Transparency Act. And the core idea is actually really simple, but it's powerful. Make the government publish these binding legal opinions online for everyone to see. The bill sets deadlines for compliance, and it even gives citizens like us the power to sue for access. I mean, on the surface, it seems like a total common-sense fix to a really serious problem. But, and there's always a but, a deep legal analysis from Northwestern's Law Journal points out that simply demanding transparency might not be enough to truly fix the underlying issue. The devil, as they always say, is in the details.
And this leads us to a really crucial question. Are there loopholes in this proposed law? I mean, could the executive branch just find new ways to create secret law, even if this act passes?
And the analysis suggests the answer is, yeah, probably. For one, the bill is pretty vague about what even counts as a final opinion, which could totally be exploited. But more importantly, the Attorney General, who, remember, is a political appointee who works for the president, gets the final say on what's too classified to release. You couple that with courts that are often really hesitant to challenge the president on national security, and, well, you've got a recipe for the secrecy to continue, just through different means.
So the crucial takeaway here is this: passing a flawed bill isn't the end of the story. Real change requires public awareness and constant pressure to make sure that any reform has real teeth, and that's where you come in. Here are 3 concrete things you can do. First, contact your representatives. Tell them you support the OLC Transparency Act, but that it needs to be strengthened to close these loopholes we've talked about. Second, raise public awareness. Talk about this issue, share what you've learned. And third, support the organizations that are on the front lines fighting for government accountability in court and in Congress every single day.
Because ultimately, it all comes down to this really powerful idea from former Senator Russ Feingold. It is a basic tenet of democracy that the people have a right to know the law. Secret law is fundamentally completely incompatible with a government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
A special thank you to David Laguerre, our producer, and Dawn Laguerre, our key research assistant producer. Thank you for listening to the Mohawk Valley Voice Deep Dive. We invite you back for future deep dives right here at the Mohawk Valley Voice.